The galaxy was at peace, or so they thought. The alien fleets were poised to strike, but none of them anticipated the one thing they could not comprehend: the ferocity of humanity's survival. General Draxer, the fiercest commander of the Anroth Empire, knew this better than anyone. And yet, as he stood before the Galactic Council, pleading for them to reconsider their decision, his words fell on deaf ears. "Don't fight the humans," Draxer growled, his voice heavy with the weight of centuries of war. "And if you do, pray that they show mercy." The council members exchanged dismissive glances, their boredom palpable. In their minds, the humans were nothing more than an insignificant species, too scattered, too disorganized to pose any real threat. A few isolated skirmishes with other, lesser species had barely scratched the surface of their intergalactic power. The Anroth Empire, after all, had crushed every race that had stood before it. But Draxer's warning carried a different tone, a chilling one that no one could ignore, no matter how hard they tried. He slammed his armored fist onto the marble table, his breath steady but intense. "You don't understand. The humans are unlike anything you've ever encountered. You think you can control them. You think they'll cower before your might. You're wrong." Introduction of key elements/characters ***. At the far end of the room, Captain Alia Drayton of Earth stood quietly, listening to Draxer's rant. She had met him before during a brief but tense meeting on the neutral world of Zera 9. He was ruthless, no question about that. But something in his eyes told her that he feared something deeper than just a military defeat. Alia was no diplomat, she was a soldier, and a damn good one. Her reputation as a strategist and fierce combat leader had made her the ideal representative for Earth in the ongoing peace talks with the galactic powers. But now, as the Anroth Empire's looming threat grew ever closer, her role had shifted. Peace was no longer the priority. Survival was. "You don't understand," Alia murmured under her breath, more to herself than anyone else. The humans had been underestimated before by every species they'd ever encountered. And yet, against all odds, they'd always found a way to survive. This time would be no different. The council finally responded, their voices dripping with condescension. "General Draxer, your concerns are noted, but we believe you are overestimating the human threat. They have no fleet, no standing army capable of standing against us." "Then you're fools," Draxer snapped back. "And you will regret it." Escalation of tension ***. Draxer turned on his heel, striding toward the giant window that overlooked the galactic expanse. His thoughts swirled with the certainty of what was to come. The Anroth Empire's forces had been mobilized for months, and they were set to strike Earth with a force that could obliterate any resistance. What the Council didn't know, what they couldn't possibly comprehend, was that Draxer's years of command had shown him a truth that few others could grasp. The human species, when pushed to the edge, was unstoppable. Their unyielding drive to survive, their capacity for war, and their willingness to sacrifice everything made them a force like no other. Alia watched Draxer's back, feeling the weight of his warning sink into her bones. She knew that his experience had taught him to never underestimate humanity, and she was certain that Earth's resistance, no matter how small it seemed to the galaxy, would rise to meet this threat. The Council's laughter filled the room. "General, we appreciate your insight, but we've already made our decision. We will not waste resources on such a trivial species." Draxer's eyes narrowed as he turned to face them one last time. "Then prepare to face the consequences of your arrogance." As Draxer's voice echoed through the council chamber, Alia felt a shiver run down her spine. It wasn't the tone of his warning that unsettled her. It was the truth buried in it. She knew he wasn't just speaking as a commander, but as someone who had seen the aftermath of humanity's battles across the stars. And he wasn't wrong. The humans would fight. They would never surrender. And when they fought to win. Outside, the stars shimmered coldly, indifferent to the fate of Earth. But Alia knew that the darkness beyond would soon come alive with the fires of war. A single thought lingered in her mind as the doors to the council chamber slid open, signaling the end of the meeting. The invasion was coming, and Earth would never be ready for what was about to happen. the sky shattered. In an instant, Earth's first line of defense, an array of satellites, fell silent, swallowed whole by the sudden onslaught. The alien fleets had arrived, their arrival a cataclysmic signal that the galaxy's brightest, most ruthless species were ready to prove Draxer's warning right. And on Earth, Alia Drayton knew the war, for survival, had begun. The world had never been ready for this. Despite their best preparations, humanity was still facing an unimaginable force, an enemy that outclassed them in technology, numbers, and sheer firepower. And yet, as the first explosions lit up the sky, Alia's instincts kicked in. The same instincts that had carried her through battles, skirmishes, and diplomatic crises. Earth had always been underestimated. It had been the humans' greatest strength, and now, in the face of overwhelming odds, it was about to be their greatest weapon. Alia had anticipated the worst, the overwhelming odds, the speed of the attack. But she never expected how quickly the invasion would unfold. The Anroth Empire's armada descended from the void with a precision that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Millions of alien soldiers, fully equipped and trained for war, stormed Earth's atmosphere with ruthless efficiency. Their warships blotted out the sky, casting a shadow over Earth cities before launching strikes that turned entire military bases into rubble. But what the Anroth Empire didn't expect was the quiet, unassuming force humanity had kept hidden. The one thing that had been their greatest strength in every war, an unwavering will to fight, no matter the cost. Alia watched the first blasts ripple through her command center screens, her face hardening as she turned to the team of military strategists at her side. "Activate the countermeasures," she ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos unfolding outside. "Countermeasures online, Captain," one of the officers said, his hands moving swiftly over the console. In the quiet, Alia could almost hear the hum of the satellites that now turned against their would-be masters. Earth's secret weapon wasn't just technology. It was a combination of ingenuity, determination, and the will to survive. Humanity had prepared for this day long before anyone knew the alien threat was real. After all, they'd learned to survive against the odds time and time again. Alia's eyes never left the screen as the battle began in earnest. She had never experienced something like this, so overwhelming, so completely one-sided. Alien ships, superior in every way, broke through Earth's outer defenses. The cities on the coasts, the nerve centers of the military, were the first to be targeted. Each explosion, each flash of light, sent waves of panic through the world's populace. But the world wasn't just sitting idly by. Resistance flared up in places Draxer had no reason to consider. Earth's forces, once considered fragmented and ineffective, were anything but. The warships in Earth's fleet began retaliating with precision strikes, taking down one after another of the alien invaders. The atmosphere began to fill with the noise of battle, ships ramming, weapons firing, the pulse of desperate hope rising. It wasn't enough, not yet. The alien forces overwhelmed the defensive lines, pushing deep into the heart of Earth. But as the skies rained fire, Alia remained steadfast, calculating, focused. The breakthrough came when Alia received an encrypted signal from one of Earth's deepest bunkers. Hidden beneath layers of classified military secrecy, the last of Earth's truly experimental weapons had been activated. A colossal warship, one that was based on captured alien technology, rose from its underground berth and ascended into the atmosphere. It had been in development for years, a secret kept from both allies and enemies alike. Alia's heart skipped a beat. This was Earth's ace in the hole, but even she had doubted it would ever come online. "Captain, it's launching," an officer confirmed. The warship's design was unlike anything the aliens had seen before. Its surface was covered in dark, adaptive plating that shifted like liquid metal, and its weapon systems, hybridized from both human and alien tech, were designed for one purpose: to turn the tide of battle. As it ascended toward the heart of the enemy fleet, its engines roared to life, a signal to the galaxy that Earth would not go down without a fight. It was the moment the invaders realized they had underestimated the humans. The warship blasted through the atmosphere, deploying drones and shields that devastated the alien forces. Earth's retaliatory fire hit the Anroth Empire's ships with precision and force that shocked even Draxxer's seasoned commanders. The tide of battle was beginning to shift. As the first explosion from the warship tore through an alien capital ship, a sudden, unexpected message flashed across Alia's screen. Draxxer's personal transmission. Captain Drayton, the voice crackled, distorted by static, but unmistakable. "You are a fool if you think you can win this. But I will give you one piece of advice. Show mercy. Because if you do not, the galaxy will never forgive you." Alia stared at the message, her fingers hovering over the console. The warning rang in her ears, but in her heart, she knew one thing for certain. Humanity would show no mercy. Not now. Not when their survival hung in the balance. The war had only just begun, and Earth would fight until the last breath. The darkness spread faster than anyone could have predicted. Within hours of the first assault, Earth's entire defense network crumbled, not due to overwhelming firepower, but because of an insidious, invisible enemy. A virus that seemed to target everything humanity relied upon. Communications fell silent. Systems locked up. And in the chaos, the alien forces prepared to strike harder than ever before. Alia stood in the command center, her mind racing. The war had taken a horrifying turn. Earth's secret weapon, the hybrid warship, had dealt the alien fleet a devastating blow, but the victory felt hollow. The virus was worse than any weapon they had ever faced. "Status report," Alia demanded, her voice steady despite the storm raging outside. "Captain," the technician stammered, looking up from his screen, "we've lost all access to the satellite grid. The virus has infected everything. Our fleet, our ground defenses, even our emergency systems. It's like it's targeting us specifically." Alia's stomach dropped. She had seen many threats in her time, but this was something different. The virus was unlike anything Earth had ever encountered, both biological and digital in nature, capable of adapting and mutating faster than any system could cope. The aliens had unleashed it with chilling precision. The warship had done its job, but now it felt as if humanity were fighting two battles at once, one against invaders, and the other against a plague that might bring them to their knees. Across the globe, humanity's first responders, soldiers, scientists, engineers, rushed to assess the damage. Hospitals, military bases, and even local civilian networks had been hit hard. The virus spread like wildfire, corrupting vital systems with ruthless efficiency. Alia knew that time was running out. "This is no ordinary virus," she muttered, pacing the command room. "It's designed to cripple our infrastructure, and it's working." One by one, her officers confirmed the worst. The global communication grid was down. Air traffic control had been disrupted. Even power grids were failing, leaving entire cities without light, warmth, or any means of defense. The virus didn't just disrupt. It rendered Earth's most advanced technologies useless. Alia couldn't afford to waste time. "Prepare for a manual counteroffensive," she ordered, thinking quickly. "We need to fight back on the ground. Requisition every last available weapon, manual, chemical, anything we can use. Get me the scientists. They need to find a cure." Hours turned into days, and still, no solution was in sight. As the virus continued to spread, Alia made a grim decision. If humanity was going to survive this attack, it would have to outlast the virus. She had no illusions about their chances. With every passing minute, it became clear that the aliens had orchestrated a perfect storm. Physical destruction backed by a silent, invisible force designed to undo everything humanity had built. The worst part? There was no sign of the alien fleet backing off. Instead, their ships hovered overhead, their presence like a suffocating weight pressing down on the planet. Without their technology, the warships were blind, vulnerable. But Alia knew the aliens wouldn't wait forever. Soon enough, they would initiate a ground invasion that could wipe humanity out once and for all. But even with their systems crippled, Earth's resilience was hard to extinguish. Fighters and soldiers began organizing in makeshift bunkers. Military leaders, including those who had only known peace, rallied the troops. Humanity's ingenuity wasn't lost. It was simply waiting for the right moment to strike back. Then, the breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A small group of scientists, led by Dr. Hannah Voss, discovered something in the virus's structure, a weakness. It wasn't a flaw, per se, but a part of the virus's design that could be exploited. The virus had been designed with a built-in backdoor, a code that humans could reverse engineer. If they could isolate the right sequences, they could develop an antidote. It was humanity's first real victory in the war. Alia received the news as she was standing over a map of the world, tracking the remaining military assets. The relief that washed over her was brief, however. The antidote was far from ready. They needed time they didn't have. Dr. Voss, Alia said into the comm, "How long until you can distribute the cure?" 24 hours, came the reply. "If we have the resources, and if we can stop the virus from mutating again." Alia's heart pounded. 24 hours might as well have been an eternity. The virus was mutating constantly, adapting faster than any human could predict. "Make it happen," she replied sharply, her resolve unshaken. "And get those systems back online." As the team scrambled to produce the cure, Alia couldn't help but wonder. What would happen if they failed? The aliens might be winning the battle, but they hadn't won yet. Not if humanity had anything to say about it. She stared out at the battlefield before her, knowing that Earth's future was uncertain. But as long as there was breath left in their bodies, the fight would continue. And they would not go down without a fight. Alia watched as the last of the satellites blinked out, the final remnants of Earth's advanced defense systems collapsing under the weight of the alien assault. The virus had crippled the world's technology. But now, without warning, Earth's last hope had arrived. The warship, built in secrecy and fueled by human ingenuity, tore through the atmosphere, its weapons systems alive with devastating power. The tide of battle had begun to shift. But was it enough? The alien fleet, hovering ominously above Earth, had been expecting an easy victory. They were wrong. Humanity's strength had always been its unpredictability, and now, that strength would be tested like never before. The warship, the Valiant, had been Earth's last secret, a weapon born from the ashes of desperation. Built from salvaged alien technology and retrofitted with human engineering, it was a behemoth, an apex predator in space. As it broke through the atmosphere, it fired a volley of plasma blasts that tore into the first wave of the alien fleet. Massive warships, once considered invincible, exploded in blinding flashes of fire, their crews scrambling to make sense of the sudden counterattack. For Alia, the sight of the Valiant's devastating firepower was bittersweet. It was their last hope, but how long could they sustain this fight? How many more times could humanity scrape by, relying on sheer determination to keep them alive? Her mind raced, running through possible scenarios. Earth's defenses, still compromised by the virus, were holding on by a thread. The Valiant was powerful, but it was one ship against an entire fleet. Even if they destroyed the alien ships in orbit, what would stop the ground invasion? The aliens were ruthless. They wouldn't stop until humanity was eradicated. Alia's voice was steady as she gave orders. "Focus fire on the largest cruiser. We can't give them any time to regroup." Her team responded with precision, targeting the largest of the alien ships. As the Valiant's weapons discharged again, a massive explosion rocked the sky. The alien cruiser was torn apart, its hull crumbling into the vacuum of space. But Alia knew this was just the beginning. The alien forces were vast, and they had more tricks up their sleeves. The true test was coming, and the warship alone wouldn't be enough to turn the tide. As the battle raged in space, Alia's mind drifted back to the ground forces. The human resistance was holding their own, but just barely. Earth's military had been scattered by the virus, and many soldiers had resorted to makeshift tactics, relying on whatever weapons they could salvage. But their resilience, their will to fight, was unlike anything the aliens had encountered. In cities across the world, guerrilla fighters engaged the alien shock troops, using the terrain to their advantage. Small, nimble units attacked the invaders where they least expected it, through the underground subway systems, across rooftops, and through abandoned buildings. The aliens used to overwhelming force, struggled to adapt to the chaos and unpredictability of human tactics. On the ground, Captain Jared Miles led a unit through the wreckage of a major city, his eyes focused on the path ahead. The alien invaders were relentless, pushing through each city, each military base, with terrifying precision. But as the battle raged on, something was changing in the soldiers. The fear that had once paralyzed them was fading, replaced by something stronger: anger, defiance, and the desire to survive. "We fight for Earth," Captain Miles shouted, rallying his soldiers. "This is our home, our fight. Don't let them take it from us." His words were met with a roar of approval as they stormed through the city, pushing back the alien invaders inch by inch. Each victory, no matter how small, was a message: Earth would not fall. Not without a fight. As the alien fleet above Earth began to falter, Draxer's anger boiled over. His forces had been thrown into disarray by the sudden ferocity of the human resistance. The virus, meant to cripple them, had only made them more resourceful. And now, the humans were striking back harder than expected. On his flagship, Draxer's fist slammed into the command console, his voice low but filled with venom. "Prepare for the final assault." Draxer's ships loomed above Earth like a storm waiting to break. The alien general had seen enough. His pride, his empire, everything he had fought for, was slipping away in the face of human tenacity. His fleet, battered and burning, now turned its weapons toward Earth's last line of defense. The valiant, Earth's final hope, had one last chance to turn the tide. But as Alia Drayton stared at the battle unfolding before her, she knew the stakes had escalated. Earth's forces were running low on resources, their warships were weakening, and their numbers were thinning. There was no more room for mistakes. Alia's eyes never left the screen as she watched the alien fleet concentrate its fire on the Valiant. The massive warship had been Earth's saving grace, but even it could only take so much damage. Shields flickered and sputtered as plasma blasts tore through the hull, sending tremors through the command deck. "We can't hold out much longer," one of her officers shouted, his voice filled with panic. "They're overwhelming us. If we don't get backup, we'll be destroyed." Alia gritted her teeth. Backup was a luxury they didn't have. The virus had decimated Earth's defenses, leaving their military scattered and under-equipped. The Valiant was all they had left. "Focus all remaining power to the front shields," Alia ordered. "Prepare to fire the last of our torpedoes. We're taking out that flagship, no matter what." The Valiant shuddered as it pushed forward, its guns roaring in defiance. Plasma fire rained down, barely missing as the ship twisted and banked to avoid the alien ships. Every shot from their weapons felt like a hammer strike, but it wasn't enough to halt the advancing tide of enemy ships. As the Valiant continued its charge, something unexpected happened. On the ground, the human forces, once scattered and disorganized, were now rallying. A groundswell of resistance erupted as soldiers, civilians, and even former political leaders took up arms. Across the world, small units began to mount counterattacks against the alien shock troops. The sense of unity that had been so fractured was now a force no enemy could ignore. "We've got one shot at this," Captain Miles said, his voice coming through the comms. "The city's almost clear. We'll take out their command center, and maybe, just maybe, we can turn the tide on the ground." Alia could hear the conviction in Miles' voice. If humanity had one chance, it was in moments like this, when they had nothing left to lose. She gave him the order. "Do it," she said simply, her voice filled with grim determination. The humans had nothing left but courage, and they would use it to push back the alien invaders one last time. Draxer's wrath asterisk. Up above, Draxer seethed as his ships faltered. His pride, his empire, was falling apart, and he could feel the weight of it pressing down on him. The humans had no right to defy him, no right to challenge the might of the Anroth Empire. "Destroy them," Draxer snarled to his fleet, his eyes burning with rage. "Crush them all. No mercy." The command was given. Alien ships began to close in, their weapons primed to fire. The Valiant was surrounded. The last human ship stood alone, facing certain annihilation. The ground forces were far from reaching victory. Their numbers still too small to change the tide of war. But Alia wasn't done yet. The Valiant's weapons flared one final time, striking the enemy flagship with a direct hit. The explosion that followed was catastrophic, the heart of the alien fleet obliterated in a blaze of fire and twisted metal. The shockwave reverberated through space, disorienting the remaining enemy ships. They faltered. They hesitated. Alia knew they had only seconds before the remaining alien forces regrouped. "Target the next ship." "Now," she commanded, barely a breath between words. The Valiant fired once more. The shot hit its mark, bringing down another flagship. The alien fleet now in full retreat. The ground forces, bolstered by this unexpected turn of events, surged forward with renewed strength. The aliens had no choice but to fall back. Victory, for the first time, seemed possible. But even as Draxur's forces retreated, Alia knew the war was far from over. There was still much to be done. The alien empire would not forgive the humiliation of retreat. And Draxur? He wasn't the kind to surrender. The Valiant floated in the quiet aftermath, its engines sputtering from the strain, the crew battered but alive. As Alia stood at the command center, staring into the stars, one thought echoed through her mind. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The smoke of battle still clung to Earth's atmosphere as the last remnants of the alien fleet limped back toward the stars, battered and broken. But Alia Drayton knew the war was far from over. Draxur's fleet had been forced into retreat, but the alien general's words rang in her ears. Asterisk, if you don't show mercy, the galaxy will never forgive you. Asterisk. In the silence that followed their victory, Alia was faced with an impossible choice, one that could either seal Earth's future or doom it forever. The price of victory, asterisk. The world was still in chaos. Cities lay in ruins, the land scorched by weeks of relentless bombardment. Thousands of lives had been lost, and the cost of survival had taken its toll on the planet's infrastructure. The warship, the Valiant, was barely operational, and Earth's remaining forces were exhausted, physically and mentally drained. But Alia's focus was clear. They had won. The alien forces had been repelled. For the first time in centuries, humanity had shown the galaxy that they could stand toe-to-toe with the universe's most formidable foes. And yet, despite the overwhelming feeling of victory, doubt gnawed at her. The alien fleet was not completely defeated. It had retreated. Yes, but they were not gone. Draxur had fled, but his pride had been wounded. The question lingered. Would the Anroth Empire regroup and return with even greater force? More importantly, what would the galaxy make of Earth's defiance? Weeks after the battle, a transmission arrived, one that Alia knew would come, but still dreaded. The image of Draxur appeared on the command screen, his form a looming presence, his features hardened by defeat but not broken. "Captain Drayton," Draxur's voice echoed coldly through the chamber. "You think you've won. You have only delayed your inevitable destruction. The Anroth Empire will return, stronger and more unforgiving than before. But I offer you this. Show mercy now, and I will spare your planet. Reject this offer, and your people will face consequences that will make this war look like a child's play." Alia's pulse quickened. The alien general was not bluffing. He had never bluffed. The Anroth Empire had the resources to wipe Earth off the map. Yet here he was, offering a ceasefire. The choice was clear. Show mercy, and Earth might live in peace for a time. Refuse, and Earth would face the wrath of an empire that had crushed entire worlds. But mercy was a double-edged sword. It could either lead to a fragile peace or sow the seeds of humanity's downfall. Alia stood in the silence of the command center, her eyes fixed on the glowing image of Draxur. She thought of her people, the soldiers who had died for this moment, the families who had lost everything. Would it be fair to let the enemy go? To allow them to regroup and strike again? In her heart, Alia knew the answer. Humans had always fought for survival, not for revenge. They were not conquerors, but survivors. And mercy, while dangerous, was the only path that would guarantee a future for Earth. "General Draxur," Alia said, her voice steady, "we will show mercy. But know this, Earth's survival comes at a cost. We will never be your slaves. The next time we meet, it will be as equals, or not at all." Draxer's face twisted into something between a sneer and a grin. "You are wise, Captain. But remember, I will be watching. And when the time comes, you will have to decide once again." As the transmission ended, Alia leaned back in her chair, her hands shaking slightly. She had made the choice to spare Earth, but it wasn't an easy one. The road ahead would be fraught with uncertainty. She knew the galaxy was watching, waiting for humanity's next move. But for now, Earth had bought itself time. The alien threat had been repelled, and the planet had shown a strength that the universe would not soon forget. Alia looked out at the stars, her mind racing with the weight of her decision. She had shown mercy, but in the back of her mind, the words that Draxer had spoken lingered. And with that thought, Alia knew one thing for certain. This was not the end. It was only the beginning.